2020 was a disaster, but that doesn't mean it was a completely terrible year for movies. Okay, well, it kind of was, but that doesn't mean there were bad movies. Everything was bad. No. There was actually a really good amount of good movies that actually did come out on streaming services and theaters, and that's what I'm going to be looking at today. These are my top 10 favorite movies of 2020, and unlike my previous top 10s, they were like top 15, top 20, but because there really weren't that many fantastic movies to come out, or many movies to come out, I only got to review at least 38 movies to come out last year, with some brief movie reviews. But anyways, these are the films that I enjoyed watching from home and in the theater at the same time. So these are my own personal picks. You're not going to agree with everything on here. So if you see some movies that you didn't see on this list, make sure to leave a comment down below what your favorite movies of 2020 were. So yeah, before I get into it, I have some honorable mentions, which include News of the World, The Way Back, Love and Monsters, The Personal History of David Copperfield, and Mank. And just so you know, I haven't seen every single movie that came out in 2020. I haven't seen One Night in Miami, or I'm Thinking of Ending Things. That's what it's called. I'm Thinking of Ending Things. So yeah, I haven't seen those types of movies because I just didn't have time. I mean, I could have had time, but I just didn't really feel like sitting down and watching every single movie to come out. But hey, I still managed to have seen enough. So anyways, with all that being said, let's get started. Let's start things off at number 10 with a very nice sequel that I didn't really feel like we needed, but hey, Borat's subsequent movie film was a really solid sequel to one of the funniest movies of the 2000s, okay? I feel like this is one of the more important comedy films to come out this decade, or this starting decade, because this was during the pandemic, and the fact that the last act of the movie has to do with the pandemic. But yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen is fantastic once again as Borat, as well as the woman who played her daughter. I forgot what her name was, but they have really good chemistry in here. It has one of the craziest last acts to a comedy film I've seen, and it's surprisingly been a good year for comedy films. With this and Bill and Ted Face the Music, I feel like they have really managed to pull through with comedy sequels, which is really surprising. At my number 9 spot is one of the most puzzling films of 2020, Tenet. So yeah, this is kind of a split film with critics. Some people really did not understand it. To me, I feel like it's one of the most rewatchable films of 2020, okay? It's very original with its storyline, and its stunning visuals and fantastic performances from Robert Pattinson and John David Washington make this a really fun roller coaster ride. Some people might not entirely get it, but this is one of those films where it's something that Christopher Nolan has. Like, he makes some very puzzling films, but the more you rewatch them, the more you're engaged and the more you understand. And it's probably going to be a while before people truly understand what this film means, but that's what I really love most about this film. Tenet was a really excellent film, and to me, one of Christopher Nolan's, well, I wouldn't say it's on its top 5 best. I actually enjoyed it a bit more than Interstellar, but this was still a really solid entry in his library of films. At my number 8 spot, I have Trials of the Chicago 7. Wow, this movie was very deep with multiple plot details that I wasn't entirely expecting. It's based on a real event. I feel like 2020 has gotten a very good amount of important films to come out in 2020. This is definitely one of them. It's streaming on Netflix. I didn't really have a whole lot to say about it, but when I reviewed it with the other 5 movies that I reviewed in my 6 catch-up movie review thing, but yeah, Trials of the Chicago 7 was a really unique experience, fantastic casting, and all around a very damn good film. At my number 7 spot, I have Judas and the Black Messiah. Sure, critics didn't review it till this year, but it was supposed to be released in 2020. But you know what? Since it's technically a 2020 and it's already being up for awards and stuff, I am still putting it on this list, okay? And I was going to review this film, but after watching it, I was like, okay, this is going to be really hard for me to review. So, you know what? I'm just going to talk about it here, okay? If I was to rate it, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. Daniel Kaluuya is fantastic in this movie. It's very deep with its story and the message that it has, and just like what I mentioned in my last in my last entry, this is definitely one of the most important films to come out. And the fact that this is basically during, of course, you know, this is the month for, you know, this is the perfect month for the film to be released. So I think that's why they pushed it to this month. So yeah, but Judas and the Black Messiah was a very deep film, okay? And that last act, ooh, it was tense. And it really left me engaged once I was done with the movie and throughout my 2-hour experience with the movie. Coming at number 6, I have Promising Young Woman, one of the most craziest thrillers I have seen in quite some time. A revenge story that takes a different twist. It's a very smart and unique film. Carey Mulligan is excellent in the film, and it's an excellent directorial debut for the directress of this film. Like, you'll understand more when you check out my review, because I reviewed most of these movies, okay? But Promising Young Woman is one of those movies that just wouldn't escape my mind after watching it. It has a crazy last act that I really wasn't expecting, and it's one of the most unpredictable films of the year. Like, anything could have happened, and I'm glad different things happened than I was expecting for them to be, and this was all around a fantastic film. And yeah, surprisingly, despite it not being a violent revenge thriller, that doesn't hide the fact that I was engaged and invested throughout this entire movie. And I really, it's really going to stick with me for quite some time. Coming in at my number 5 spot, I have Disney Pixar's Soul. Pete Docter's supposed last film, but I really hope that's not true, because he's still my favorite director working with Pixar. But, you know, Pete Docter's Soul is a very engaging film. Alright, Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey have excellent chemistry together, and like Pixar's other films, it's very deep with its story. It gives a really strong message on how we see things in life, and what questions we have for life, and what's the purpose. And it's just a really deep film. And a lot of you guys were really pissed off that I did not give it a perfect score. But hey, I said it was an awesome movie, okay? So that should be good enough. And it's my number 5 spot for best movies of 2020. So that should count for something. Though, it's not quite my favorite animated movie of the year. You just unsubscribed now, didn't you? But nevertheless, Soul is fantastic, and definitely check it out, okay? It's definitely one of Pete Docter's best. Hell, all of his movies are awesome, so yeah. At my number 4 spot, I have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Chadwick Boseman's supposed last film, and he definitely, even though he's not here anymore, he definitely deserves an Oscar nomination. Him and Viola Davis were excellent in this movie. This was another film that could have been really hard for me to review. That's why I didn't go in depth on it. What I really like most about this movie is that it doesn't really drag on too much. Like, it's a surprisingly really well-paced movie. Like, I was intrigued by the storyline and the story of Ma Rainey, and everything else about the movie. And the final act, wow, 2020 has had it's been a crazy year for last acts, but, you know, this was still a really investing film that I feel like you should definitely check out. It's on Netflix, and it's the perfect month to watch it, so yeah. Coming in at my number 3 spot is my favorite horror movie of 2020, The Invisible Man. Oh my god, I've rewatched this film like 3 times. I saw it twice in the theater, once at home. I got the 4K Blu-ray just a few days before its actual release date. It was an incredible experience, okay? Despite being on a really low budget, this movie feels like it's made on a $20 million budget than a $5 million budget. And this movie has a lot going for it. Leigh Whannell directed the hell out of this movie. Elizabeth Moss is fantastic. It's a phenomenal return to form for, you know, those old Hammer horror films. But it's not really about that. It doesn't really feel much like a remake to a very old, you know, Hammer horror film. It feels like it's doing its own thing. It basically focuses on how most people have toxic relationships and how they can get very dark, and they're just trying to ruin your life, and I feel like it has a very smart turn on that, okay? The performances were excellent. It's directed near perfectly, and despite its 2-hour runtime, I never felt bored, okay? It just flew by really fast when I first saw it, and the second time I watched it, it flew by even faster. So yeah, this is definitely one of the best horror films of the decade. It's my favorite horror film of 2020. And I was going to make a best horror films of 2020 list like I do every year, but I haven't really seen enough, and I didn't really want to watch every single horror movie that came out. But hey, if I had to choose my favorite horror film of 2020, it would definitely be The Invisible Man. Not to mention, one of my top favorite movies of 2020. Alright, here it is. My favorite animated film of 2020 is none other than Cartoon Saloon and Tom Moore's Wolfwalkers, okay? This is a film that I needed to check out. I watched all of Cartoon Saloon's films earlier this year, leading up to this one, and it just amazes me that despite not seeing that many 2D animated films anymore other than anime films, this is a work of art, and it makes me miss films like this, okay? The relationship between the two main girls was just a blessing to see. And it was very engaging. I really like the twist, well, not really the twist, the different take on, you know, the werewolf genre, and the fact that they're not really werewolves, they're called wolf walkers, which is different from a werewolf. But, you know, the take on it and the fact that it doesn't always feel like it's going for a child audience. It's going for a more, you know, I feel like it's going for a more like a teen audience, and it's really deep, and it gets really dark at some parts, but, you know, it left me emotionally invested, and it's easily their best film since Song of the Sea, which I watched twice this year, and this is definitely a film that I really hope gets a Blu-ray release, and not just a streaming, and not only available on streaming, because that would be a real shame, because I want to own this film, because I'm always going to be a physical media collector. But Wolfwalkers is my favorite animated film of 2020, and one of my favorites of the year, and it managed to take my number 2 spot, so that should tell you something right there. Alright guys, this is a really cliche choice, but I thought about it ever since I watched it in the theater, which was not too long ago, but my number 1 spot is Nomadland, okay? This is the most important film to come out this year, in my opinion, that is, okay? Frances McDormand, everybody, I felt for their characters, I felt like they were real people, and most of them actually were real people. The movie is about celebration, okay? It's about loss, but not forgetting the losses. And the fact that most of the people in this film were homeless, I really felt for them, and it had me caring throughout the runtime, okay? It's beautifully shot, the soundtrack, the score, I was invested, the movie never bored me, the movie never slowed down for me. It might not be an action-heavy film, but it's really deep, and it felt like if it were a documentary film in the perspective of a full-length cinematic film. And it's everything that I wanted it to be, okay? I was invested, it was touching, it was heartbreaking at the same time, but it was also very uplifting, and that's something that I like to see in films like this. Nomadland is a masterpiece, and it's easily my pick for best film of 2020. Alright guys, that's it for my best films of 2020 list. But before I end this video, okay? Before I end this, I should have probably told you this, guys, in a Chat with Matt video, but since I'm talking about my favorite films of 2020 list, let me tell you guys something, okay? You guys have been asking me if, by the way, yes, I know it's been rain. I know you hear rain outside, it's raining, but, you know, at least it's not dogs barking, but sorry if it annoys you, but yeah. You guys have probably been expecting me to do a top 10 worst movies of 2020 list. Like, I see you guys in the comments, are you going to do top 10 worst movies of 2020? Top 10 worst movies of 2020, are you going to release that? Well, here's the thing, you guys. I haven't really been up to doing top 10 worst movies of years by year anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some movies in 2020 I did not like. I thought were absolute trash. Doolittle, The Turning. I watched Artemis Fowl on streaming. That movie was so bad, I refused to review it. And of course, Fantasy Island. But I didn't really want to focus on the bad stuff because I'm more of a positive guy. And when I make top 10s, I want to do it on the stuff that I actually enjoy, and not really on the negative. Now, don't get me wrong, when I do review a movie that I didn't like, I will give it a negative review. You'll still be seeing negative reviews when you see them. It's just, I know they get more views, mainly because, you know, most people like seeing people rip apart other movies, but there's just something you gotta understand. I didn't really have much fun making my top 10 worst movies of 2019 list, mainly because I didn't really feel good, because I kind of felt bad, you know, talking trash about these movies on a specific list. Like, I didn't want to be too hard on the movies. I mean, they're movies that people have worked really hard on, and seeing me trash on them Now, but like I said before, you're going to see negative reviews for movies, okay? I don't know what movies, I'm just going to have to find out what movies. If there's a movie that I'm really looking forward to and I didn't like it, I will give it a bad score. If there's a game I didn't like, I'll give it a bad score. It's just, it's just going to rarely happen because I like to be careful on what type of movies that come out that I want to see. But, yeah, I don't think I want to do top 10 worst movies anymore because I don't really feel good when making them anymore, okay? I really hope you guys understand. I know you guys really wanted to see that list, but I haven't really seen enough movies, but yeah, I also don't really feel like making them anymore because they're just not lists I enjoy making anymore. So I really hope you guys understand. You can unsubscribe if you want because, you know, if that's mostly what you just want to see, then I understand. But, yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I have more videos coming out soon. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later. Word out.